Hello, and thank you for joining me. Lab report overview. Okay, this is going to go over the requirements for the lab paper that you'll turn in. All right, let's begin. So first of all, your heading, right? What's going to be at the top of this? Well, the title, all right, your name, what class you are, all right, like physics or whatever class that you're taking with me. uh, the module number for which particular experiment you're doing, and the lab name, okay? And maybe the page out of the book that the lab comes from. All right, I didn't put that there, but these are extra things that you can put in here. It could be more specific as to which lab you are doing to help me better grade your work. All right. Whatever helps me to grade your work in a more accurate manner is what we're looking for here. All right, abstract. So correct sentence structure format, all right? It's going to be like at least one paragraph, okay? And post the question you're performing for this lab. So example is this lab involves 2 billiard balls which will be used to prove the theory of conservation of momentum, maybe a little history of the conservation of momentum, or whatever particular lab that you're doing, okay? Where it came from and what you expect to see, all right? All right, so this is just a quick overview of what the overall lab is. This can give me an idea as to what you learned before performing the lab, all right? So the idea is you read the chapter, you watch the videos, you understand the material, maybe you did the homework, and now you're ready to do the lab, okay, at that point. So here you regurgitate what it is that you learned and how it's being applied in this sense, okay? Great. Along with the question as to what you're doing. All right, the lab equipment used, bullet point formatted, maybe photos of the things that you're using, written like a grocery list, all right? So like 10 pennies of whatever diameter and whatever thickness. Is that necessary? Yes, it is. We want to know what the measurements are of the things that you're using. And if you can't, all right, if you absolutely cannot do it, it will not diminish your grade, all right? That will not be a factor in the diminishment of your grade. However, there are some things you can follow. If you're unable to weigh or measure a particular object or a process, find the weight or measurement of the object online maybe. But if you do find it online, put the website that you used, all right, for maybe it's a similar object, all right? If you extinguish all possible means of trying to measure an object, simply put unknown and write somewhere unable to measure particular object or process or whatever, okay, because so maybe you're unable to measure the speed of an object, okay, that's fine, just write down that, oh, it goes faster here, or it went slower than the first one did, or something to that effect, I mean, it will be obvious what you should be able to do, all right, if not, you should email me. Procedures. This step-by-step process tells what you did, okay, step-by-step process, written in a way a high schooler can read it and replicate the process, okay? We all know high schoolers know everything, but this should give them the ability to read it and replicate the process, okay? We want to make a way that somebody can come in behind you, read it word for word, do the exact process, and get the exact or maybe close to the results that you got from this procedure. All right, placed ball on top of 1 meter ledge and allowed to fall. Okay, just however descriptive you need to be. This would be an appropriate place for photos to complement a few steps. Just to be as accurate as you want to be. Not necessary to photo all things, though. That might get a little, that might take up a lot of work and might take up a lot of time, and that's not necessary. That's not the goal for this lab. It's not designed to just take up all your time. Okay, but it would help though. Just a couple of photos maybe. It's again, it wouldn't diminish your grade if you didn't put any photos in this particular process at this point of this lab. Okay, all right, great. Just so we clear that up. Analysis. This comes after the procedure. This section shows the collection of your quantitative analysis, the numbers you gathered from your results. All right. Sometimes analysis will not come with numbers. All right. An instance is after two balls elastically collided with one another, the first ball stopped and the second ball rolled with a slower or faster velocity than the first one had initially. Exact velocities were unable to be measured due to not having tools for that task. Okay, no points will be deducted for that. All right, that's perfect. That's great. Okay, perfectly fine for this case. All right, great. Moving on. Calculations. All right, pencil and paper part of the lab. This shows the math associated with the lab. All right, it gives expected values for the experiment. And this particular process should be done before any lab process begins. All right, this is the paper and pencil part of the lab. You should be putting paper to pencil before actually doing anything. An example is as this follows. If you're, for example, dropping a ruler, a friend is dropping the ruler and you are grabbing it, and somebody's timing the process it takes for you to grab it. All right. They say, well, you dropped it, I dropped it, and you grabbed it a quarter of a second after I dropped it. All right. And so this is what you would get if you were dropping a quarter of a second. All right. And this is a formula you'll see later on once we get into this class. Okay. All right, great. But this is just an example. And this is the theory part. This is a theoretical value here. Okay. This is because this is theoretical. This is theoretical because we just put a number in here, we put a time value in here, and we get an expected result. This is what is expected if you do the math for it. Okay? All right, great. That means it's theoretical. All right, versus actual. So say that somebody timed it, but you actually got a different number instead of this, all right? And that's not a bad thing if you don't get exactly what you did theoretically. And in fact, that is expected that you get an error, all right? That is expected. And that's what we're going to talk about next. Error. Error, compare theory calculations with exact values obtained in analysis section. Example from previous slide continued. Okay, so what I just spoke about earlier here, we'll continue with this bottom example here. So ruler was actually grabbed at the 5 millimeter point instead of the 3.1 millimeter point. So we just performed this example right here, theoretical minus actual divided by theoretical. Okay, those are absolute value bars on either side. So it's always going to be positive up top. Okay, now it shows 3.1 minus 5, but because of the absolute values, it's positive. All right, great. So multiply it by 100 to get, whatever percent error. All right. Followed by a short reason for the error. An error could have been made in the timing due to a human pressing the stopwatch. Great. That is great. All this is what makes for a great lab. Okay? All those things. So the rubric, what should be graded against? The experiment and lab will be graded on the following. Effort on actual experiment and procedures. Okay? How I perceive what you did in terms of your procedures and your lab. Effort on the lab paper. Okay? I can tell how much time you put into the lab paper, how much you're typing on your procedures and your analysis particularly. Following the guidelines for the lab from this slideshow. Okay. Grammar and punctuation. This is my least favorite part to grade. Okay. Not an English class, but unfortunately I have to put this in here because we want you to be able to leave this class with the ability to convey your message appropriately, okay, and to where other people can understand it. Any extra effort, okay, you could put extra points on this too, all right. Graphs, simulations, number of times lab was performed for a higher accuracy of averages. Okay, so say the procedure only asks for you to do it 3 times and you do it 6 times, okay? I can put a little bit of extra credit onto that because you were going for a higher accuracy of values there. Not a bad thing, okay? Again, not mandatory, all right? Just extra, okay? If I see that you do extra and you put it in the right areas, then I can give you extra credit for that. Only one lab will be graded if you try to turn in more than one for that particular module. Okay, don't try to turn in more than one experiment for each module. Okay, I'll only be grading one. If you do more than one, just put all your effort into one really good one. Okay, don't try to do multiple experiments. Just pick one and just go with it, and make it a really good outcome and really good paper. Okay. All right. These papers should not be more than, say, 2.5, 1 page, 1 to 2.5 pages max. Okay, that's your range there. 1 to 2.5 pages. Yes, it could be 1 page. Yes, it could be 2.5. The key is the effort. Okay, the effort. I'm not going to say that pictures are mandatory. They are not mandatory. They are just extra. All right. Okay. Great. But all these other things that you see here, with the exception of the extra effort part, all these other things, these are mandatory. Okay. All right. Great. So what else do we have? Okay. And assistance. Assistance could be taken from the physics lab if you need to. If you don't have particular tools that you need and you want to put in a lot of effort into a particular lab, because the labs are the highest grade of anything in this class, you can go to the STEM lab, all right, for help in your analysis, perhaps. You can go to the computer lab if you need to do that. Engineering lab, they have a lot of resources there for your use. And be sure, if you're going to go to any of those, coordinate with each lab's faculty or staff before using any equipment. Okay, that is my disclaimer there. I'm going to advocate that you go to these, but I am going to say as a disclaimer, you must contact their faculty and staff before using the equipment. Probably even contact them before going to find out what times they're open. All right. Okay, great. Thank you very much, and you have a great day.